Now it's my pleasure to introduce Governor Herbert. Last summer, we all got to see with our own eyes at the summer meeting in Salt Lake City how Governor Herbert has been making progress happen in his state of Utah. The people of Utah have been lucky to have him, so has the NGA. No one loves the NGA more than its former chairman. Thankfully, Governor Herbert is not leaving us until the end of this year, so we're going to lean on him until then. Let's give a big welcome to our Dean, Governor Gary Herbert.
Well, thank you, Governor Cuomo. I am honored to be here and take a few minutes with you today. And as this is my 11th winter meeting, it gives me an opportunity to tell you thanks for all the contributions that you and your predecessors have made to me as I've come here and listened and learned and been able to, in fact, translate some of that wisdom that you've imparted to me into the success of Utah. I recognize that we all are a little bit different. We have different cultures, different backgrounds, different politics, and so what I say today kind of is emblematic of what's happened in Utah, and maybe you can learn from some of the things we've done, and certainly I can learn from you. I appreciate Governor Cuomo's comments about dreaming and the possibilities. Again, I live in a state that really was built upon dreams and possibilities and trying to, in fact, work together in what was originally then a public-private partnership. Those early pioneers that came to Utah to try to make the desert blossom as a rose. So with that being my beginning, let me just mention a couple of things that I make an observation. The topic assigned to me is investing in the future, economic prosperity, and public health. I would make this observation that the wealthier you are, generally speaking, the healthier you are. You have access to better quality health care. So having a focus on economic development and growing the economy is important for all of us. It's how you pay the bills, whether it's infrastructure needs, which we focused on here today with Larry's initiative, or it's paying and funding education, health care, whatever your issues are, and they vary around the country. Again, having a healthy economy helps us pay the bills. Secondly, again, New York's about 108 years older than us. I'm a new state. So we can learn from those who've been down the trail a lot longer than us. And some of the new innovations that are coming as we've embraced technology are things that we've been able to appreciate, maybe get on board a little quicker than some of the states. But the focus really for all of us should be on economic development. And in doing so, understand, this is a Herbertism, that capital is a coward. Capital either flows in or out based on how it feels. And if it feels welcome, capital will flow to your respective states, your regions, to your businesses. If something is amiss, it will find other places to go where it's more welcome. So what we've tried to do when I came into office at the depths of the Great Recession was to kind of reset our compass and say, what can we do to, in fact, improve the conditions in our state of Utah to have a focus on coming out of the economy and become the best economy we can possibly be. We wanted to be the best, the number one in America, and also add to our opportunities to be an international business destination. And why not? We speak 130 languages in Utah, so we were built to do international business. And in doing so, basic principles were something that we embraced. For example, we have competitive tax rates. We have flattened out our tax rates. That happened under my predecessor, Governor Huntsman. We flattened it out so that they're now, and they've been lowered since then, to below 5%, about 4.95% flat rates for personal and corporate income taxes. We've also wanted to make sure that we streamlined our regulations. We actually went through and counted the regulations in our statutes and the regulations that have spawned, and found that we had 368 of them that had really no public purpose. It didn't level playing fields, make an equal opportunity. It was not designed to help keep the bad people at bay. It was just kind of a drag on the economy. And so, as you would do, we in fact removed those regulations and said to the marketplace, we're open for business. We don't want to have things that are just going to make it more difficult for you to in fact be successful as a business enterprise. We also wanted to find a way to make government more efficient. We understood, as you do too, The government is a monopoly. Whether we are good, bad, or indifferent in how we spend the taxpayers' money generally doesn't mean any difference to whether we're going to be around next week or next year or 10 years from now. In the private sector, that makes a big difference. If you don't, in fact, compete, as has been mentioned here today, the competition from China, it's a global marketplace. It's not just in our respective regions or states. It really is a world competition now. The private sector, if we don't compete properly, we'll lose profit, we'll lose market share, and then we'll lose our business. So recognizing that that's not the same rules that government has to play on, we actually brought in our cabinet, our senior staff members, and said, what can we do to find more efficiencies in our state government? Everybody bought into it. We developed what's called the Success Program. We won't have time to go through that today. But in doing so, we said we can find more efficiencies, and in doing so, save taxpayers' dollars. And so just to give you an example of two things that we've done, emblematic of many things we've done, today in the state of Utah, we actually have fewer state employees than we did back in 2002. You have to go to 2001 to find a smaller number. That's 19 years ago. In the meantime, we have over 900,000 more people that now call Utah home. More demands on state government, but we're providing it with fewer labor, technology and better processes. That saves on average now and growing about $400 to $500 million per year for the taxpayers if we just had kept up with inflation or just the rate of growth. And what we've also done, the Department of Motor Vehicles, which we know is kind of used as a bad example of state government, our Department of Motor Vehicles, the DMV, the average wait time now is less than 5 minutes. So we're doing things a lot more effectively and a lot more efficiently with making our government more effective. Last but not least, the entire effort here is to try to empower those in the private sector. We do believe in private-public partnerships. Most everything we do is with a private partner. We contract on roads, we contract on buildings. Some of the services we provide, we contract and have competition and bidding that takes place to make sure we get the best and most efficient use of the taxpayers' dollars and providing services. We've had great success in that to the point that right now, where we don't spend more than we take in, as we're just like a business, we're saying you got to run this and live within your means. We have one of only 12 states today that have a AAA bond rating from the rating agencies on Wall Street, which allows us to borrow money at a lower cost when we do construction. We don't use any one-time monies for ongoing needs. We don't have any structural imbalances. And so the fiscal prudence has allowed us, in fact, to have a good solid foundation for growth of the economy in the private sector. Last but not least, let me talk about some of the things we've done too. I had the opportunity, as some of you did, to hear from the second lady, Karen Pence, and talked about the need for us in our regulations to see what we can do to have reciprocity between the states, particularly with our military personnel. 4 years ago, we said to any military personnel that are moving into the state of Utah, if your spouse is a licensed whatever, a lot of them were teachers, if you're licensed in another state, if you're licensed in New York, if you're licensed in Maryland, when you come to Utah, that license will in fact be accepted. To help them find jobs and honor our military and their service, that's been a good thing for us and has helped. Our unemployment rate now in the state of Utah is 2.3%, the lowest in the nation, lowest in our history of the state. And our unemployment for our veterans is 2%. So even lower because we've helped in many ways with our military people. One of the other things that I'm most pleased about, again, he's running for president, but I had an opportunity to meet with Mayor Bloomberg, and they did a study on Utah and found in their analysis that the largest middle class that we have in the country today is located in Utah. So we've been able to have significant economic expansion and growth. We've created on average 3.7% new jobs in the private sector for the last decade, the most healthy economic decade in our state's history. And that's a pretty healthy growth rate. We now have more jobs than we have people. Our challenge now is labor. And we've emphasized skills and training with our education, post-high school, and we've emphasized vocational and technical training to fill some of the voids that are out there now. but we've been able to lift people out of poverty in a significant way this last decade to the point that we now not only have the largest middle class, but we have the third lowest poverty rate now in the state of Utah that we have in the nation. So with that, again, we've had some great success. We're happy to share with you our success. It worked for us. It may work for you. We're happy to share what we did and how we did it. Last but not least, when it comes to infrastructure, we've spent, when I first came into office, we're spending about $100 million on highways and roads. We now spend on average every year now about $800 million on roads and have bonded for some others. So we understand what's being talked about here, the importance of infrastructure to allow not just for quality of life and ease to get from point A to point B, but it is an economic development tool. Businesses won't come if you're in constant gridlock. So our investments in our infrastructure, roads and highways and byways has been a big deal, and it continues to be a big part of our budget today. We also have created just outside of our airport an inland port. Again, trying to find ways for goods to come into the country without having to go through the coast necessarily, which are kind of backed up, to have an inland port. Some of you have done this already, where we have rail and highways and air all coming together, help us reduce pollution, help us concentrate in an area that makes it easy for commerce to come in and out of the state of Utah and in and out of the country for that matter. And along with that, we will have a new airport. We're remodeling our airport. Some of you have been there many times. We appreciated having you there last year. But we are now going to open up the new airport, which is going to be completely remodeled and reconstructed, $4 billion cost. Will be starting to open up in this fall of this year. So again, we talk about being the crossroads of the West in Utah. If you look at the map, we're just kind of the bullseye right there between Canada and Mexico and the Midwest and the West Coast. But we're doing things to enhance that opportunity. As Governor Cuomo talked about, it is a matter of us working together, finding ways to find new ideas to, in fact, fulfill the dreams and hopes and aspirations we have, not only for ourselves, but more importantly for those who come after us, our children and our grandchildren. So again, I think all of us can, in fact, learn from each other. That's what the NGA is about. So I thank you for all of the contributions you've given to us to help Utah become the best that they can be. Thank you very much.